Well, here we finally made it to the Louvre, and it's a pretty awesome place. A little bit of history is that the Louvre actually started off as a fortress. It was a military outpost, and it was situated on the river in a way where you could, with the high walls, that they could see down both sides of the river for the potential invaders that could come into town. It wasn't until later that they decided, why don't we move in and make this a palace? So it was Francis I that actually started the construction on the first wings. And then after him, a number of other kings added different wings. And eventually, the entire square was filled. And it's architecturally really very interesting. From the outside, it's all very uniform, and they kept consistent with the style. But when you go inside, you can see the structural differences, the architectural differences from each era. So there's a couple of really big things that you need to see here, but I'm pretty sure you already have an idea of what you want to see. So how many people have been into the Louvre yet? And how many of you saw the Mona Lisa? Okay, so most people, they don't really feel too excited about the Mona Lisa. I think that they get really excited for the height. She ends up being kind of small. She's behind all this thick glass, and there's guards telling you to stay away, and there's like 500 people with selfie sticks trying to get their picture. And actually, do not bring a selfie stick into the Louvre. You will take a big chance of having it taken away from you, because that selfie stick sword fighting thing doesn't go over very well, and so they actually kind of made it like against the rules here. So avoid the selfie stick in the Louvre. Why is it that the Mona Lisa is so famous? Long story, but it goes back to our friend Francis. So Francis he had a lot of wars. He spent a lot of time in Italy. That's why we have a lot of Roman-esque influence on the buildings here. But Francis, he loved Italy very, very, very much. In fact, he loved Italian art and Italian artists as well. So he commissioned Leonardo to build him a war machine. And if you go on to Google, you can see those drawings that are amazing. Or even better, if you go to Loire, you can see the castle where a lot of replicas have been made of those amazing inventions. And Leonardo was an amazing man. He was really amazing, so amazing that Francis really, really, really cared about him, like a lot, okay? Like, he cared about him in a biblical sense. So be sure to check out one of the stained glass windows in here that depicts Francis with Leonardo when Leonardo was dying, and that special love that they had for each other. They had a nice little bromance going on. But it was actually very sweet. But when Leonardo died, he felt very attached to Francis as well, and he left him 5 of his paintings. Now, you have to remember that Leonardo only did 21 paintings, so 5 of those paintings, that's a really big deal. And one of those paintings was the Mona Lisa. So Mona Lisa, there's a lot of mystery. Why is she smiling? Do the eyes really follow you? That little trick with the eyes, it works all over the place. So there's lots of paintings that works with, and I think you can see that at Disneyland as well. It's a really cool trick, but Leonardo perfected it because he was very scientific with his art. So he understood what he was doing. The smile, La Gioconda, we're not quite sure what she was smiling at. She could have just been smiling. Why is she famous? She's famous because there was an Italian frame maker that worked in the Louvre, and he built a number of frames for different artworks, and when he was leaving his employment here, he decided that something wonderful, because there's a huge collection of Italian art here, needed to go back to Italy. And so he already had worked on the Mona Lisa, and he knew how to get it out of the frame. So he went, took it out of the frame, rolled it up, it was small enough, he got it into his sack, he got out of the Louvre. Next day, everybody comes in, blank space on the wall, no Mona Lisa. All the other paintings there. It hits the papers, okay? This was a big deal. A painting has been stolen from the Louvre, and it was like, it was like the news of the century. and it was on every newspaper, and this was before there was really tabloid magazines, so everybody was like enthralled, like, why did they steal this painting? This must have been the best painting ever. It took a while, but they eventually got the Mona Lisa back because he tried to sell it, and it didn't really sell. He was too famous at that point. So they brought it back, and when they brought it back, they put it in the newspaper again. So again, it got great publicity, and everybody was just fascinated by it. In fact, people lined up just to see the empty space on the wall where Mona Lisa hung. It was that big of a deal. So there was a big period of time when they were restoring it, and they actually put a copy up, and many people came and took pictures and thought it was the Mona Lisa, and were perfectly happy with that as well. So I guess probably a copy is better than a blank space on the wall, but either way, it's up to you to see. A couple other things that I do encourage is, we have the Venus de Milo, we have the Nike, the mummies in the Egyptian section are really interesting. The oldest piece of art here is actually also in the prehistoric area, and it's 9,000 years old. So I think it's worth hunting out. It's really pretty cool. One of the things I love to point out is that the largest painting that's in the Louvre is actually the coronation of Napoleon. Now, it was a big deal because, as I told you before, Napoleon kind of threw a little bit of a scene when he had his coronation. And so the picture depicts him putting the throne onto Josephine, that he was crowning his wife. But originally he was holding it up and he was going to crown himself. But they went ahead and doctored that so that it didn't look quite so offensive. But if you look in the picture, you can still see the Pope going like, oh no, what are you doing? And that they didn't doctor, so he's still like that. Napoleon, being a smart man, had them do a little photoshopping for him, and so he made himself a little bit younger, and Josephine a little bit younger also, so they look really very good in these pictures, and that's not very accurate as far as the time goes. I do recommend that you see his apartments. The apartments are really super cool. You also get to see his throne and see just kind of how little he was. It wasn't super little. He was like 5'6". It wasn't that bad. But for a ruler, they tend to like men that are a little bit bigger. One of my favorite parts about that also is that it's right next to Angelina. And there's enough air conditioning in there, so you can get yourself a really good lunch and a hot chocolate. It's the best hot chocolate ever. Trust me on this one. So that makes a really nice break because it's a long day. Just a couple of logistics about the Louvre is that there is also another entrance underground from the metro, and it tends to be a little bit faster than the line out here. I would pre-buy your tickets because there's a different line if you pre-buy. There's like a skip the line deal for like $2 more. It's only $15 to get in. There's a couple nights a week when it's open a little bit later, and that's always really good because when it first opens in the morning, it is very, very busy. But as we get to like this time of day, a little bit later in the afternoon and the early evening, it's really quiet in there because everybody's like gone on to do like dinner activities. They have children, they have reservations. So if you have that flexibility of time, try to go a little bit later in the day because there's a couple days when you can go later, and it's really, really nice to enjoy the museum without all the people that are there. There's free lockers as well. Bring a sweater. It can get cold sometimes with that air conditioning. And so this is, the actual pyramid here was another one of those examples of the people not being too excited about new things coming into France. They really hated it. The French did not like this structure at all. But they have grown to love it. It's become a symbol of one of the monuments of France that people really want to see. But originally there was a parking structure here. And even before that, this was like a medieval village. You can see that the square, it actually used to be closed off completely. Be sure to look out the windows when you're in the Louvre because you get to see these fantastic sculptures that are around as well. And I think you're really going to enjoy this stop.